Hello, and welcome back to the JRB podcast with myself, Ryan Levine, joined here by Jeff Jones and Bowden Temnick.
Hello.
Hey guys
And
and girls
today
and
we are
whoever.
not going to do a follow up to our last two about card prices, thankfully. We're going to talk about the
Because you know
recent.
what?
Yeah,
There are other things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Besides that.
yes, yes, there are other things to talk about. And finally, there are actually things to talk about. So we recently had I guess two YCSs because I think the YCS in Bolivia hadn't happened yet per our last episode, or it just happened. We didn't really talk about it, and then
I think it was
YCS
happening
Richmond.
as we were doing it.
Actually, I think you're
Yeah.
right. It was in the
Yeah.
middle of it as we were recording, yeah. And YCS Richmond.
Oh
So we
no no
got
no, because it was the same weekend as Master Duel, right? And we were just like Michelle won with Makenko. I think we talked about that.
I don't think I'd seen his deck list yet. Regardless, we're talk about
Anyway,
that briefly, yeah. And then YCS Richmond happened. So we can talk about the metagame shifts from there, and we have Valiant Smashers coming out this week, which I didn't even realize. We talked very briefly last week at the end about how I couldn't believe Age of Overlord, and then Rarity Collection was just 2 weeks later. Apparently, Valiant Smashers was just 2 weeks after Rarity Collection. I didn't even know. So
surprise.
we have
Yeah.
literally surprise. So we have another thing to talk
Oh my
about.
goodness.
One of these decks in Valiant Smashers people have been talking about. The other two I haven't really heard much about, but we will go into that in greater detail in a bit. So first off, we have the YCSs. So Mikanko won in Bolivia, right? And YCS
Uh-huh.
Santa Cruz. And for Richmond, there was a full deck breakdown and a top 32 deck breakdown posted. We can also talk about, who ran deep or whatever. But a note that they made in the full deck breakdown is that despite Mikanko winning just 1 week prior, it said one deck that's noticeable for its absence is Mikanko. Just last week, yes, Michael Versmo took down YCS Santa Cruz with the deck, and yet there are fewer than 20 duelists playing the deck here in Richmond. Is
I
this due to
played one of
short?
them.
Yeah. Is this due to the short time between events with duelists not having time to learn something new, or do they just not have faith in the Mikanko strategy? I think it's probably because of the short time. Just the fact that the event was not over until
Yeah.
Sunday, and then we didn't see any deck lists pretty much until Monday, and then your deck list has to be submitted by
I
Thursday night, pretty
I
much.
would
I,
like
I
to
just
make
don't
an
think.
argument real quick
Yeah.
though.
Uh,
Because while that may be true, we knew about the Makanko deck in what was it in Indy? Ed
yeah.
like Michelle's deck was Ed's deck. Like I think there
I
was
Basically.
know.
maybe a
I know.
couple cards different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm just saying that it was like the 11th most played deck at Richmond. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't even like
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't
No, no,
expect
for
it to be the
sure, for
most
sure.
played deck, but out of 1,500 players, there were fewer than 20. Like that's crazy for a deck that
But I
won
also
last week.
I feel like and we've seen this before with a lot of like the Latin American and South American YCS events. Um and as bad as I think this is like it's more of a testament, like absorb all the information that's presented to you sort of thing, because you see decks like Flunderies, we were like, oh, this is a good medical into like Unchained, and then like it wins at Cancun. And we saw it before, like what was it, we had Mystic Mine winning one of the what was it, it was Brazil,
Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
think, and
I
that was
know
in
I know what you're
Power of the
talking about, but I
Elements,
don't
right?
remember which event it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, no, there was like 2020, like Power of the Elements legal. It was the one right before Niagara. I think Mystic Mayan won. So like you don't see too much of a translation from, I think, those events, because the general public, and this was a big like hot topic on Twitter where it was like, hey, um, this isn't a premier event. It's like, no, it is. Like, you should take all your information. It's like, this is probably an event where you can get away with medicals like Makonko or like Flunderies or Mystic Mine, right? It's like smaller field, less variance, like less chance that you queue into Rogue, more chance maybe you queue into like the higher end of like what you want to be versing. Or maybe you are just like, anticipating Rogue and building your deck for Rogue and the top end, right? It it just feels like people don't really understand that like every event has its own impact. And like for USA, it never translates from South America or Latin
Yeah,
America. That's just what I've
I
seen over the years. Bro.
I'm inclined to agree, not even just for that, but just like it in a bigger picture as well. I think a lot of people, and it is important to view these results in different lenses, right? Like
Hmm.
maybe you can learn more from the top cut of a 1500 person tournament versus the top cut of a 200 person tournament or 300 person tournament. But it is important to understand that these events are still happening, and there is still data that you can get. And yes, I don't think it's shocking that I wouldn't expect Mikanko to be the most played deck at the next event, but I do think if we had maybe an additional week in between Santa Cruz and Richmond, we would have seen a bit more people convert to Mikanko. Like maybe it would have.
Do you think because we didn't see that with the Rika Sun Avalon deck either, right? Like
That
I think
one-
in every instance where Rika Sun Avalon has done well in Europe, like which is 3 times now it has
I
won
know.
an event, it has not translated to the next North American
I
event.
legitimately think at this point, Rika Sun Avalon specifically on all social media, it specifically is on this point almost just a meme that like Europe can't beat that deck or something. It's never done well in North America ever. Like it's very funny.
In North America, it's representation. I guess honestly, its representation is probably about the same as it is in Europe. We don't get those numbers as often anymore because there's no more European coverage site. Rest in peace to Ryan's YCS Melbourne win. But yeah, like I don't know, man. I'm trying to make sense of it. The hive mind is always very interesting to me. We see it with people, especially when we have people like Jesse and like Pac, they're doing well in tournaments and they're putting content out. And it's really funny to see like how people are receptive to like their content and how it creates trends in itself. But it's never like the tournament results from like, oh, Europe. Now it's like, oh, well, Jesse and Pac were playing. This is like, yeah, but this won in Europe. Like maybe put some more stake in this could be good. But oh well.
I agree.
Just
but
like real life.
Somewhat, I mean, I guess not surprising at all. The most played deck at Richmond was Rescue Ace,
but not by like crazy margins, though.
Yeah, not by a crazy amount. So the breakdown was 12% of so Richmond was about 1,500 people. It was 1,494 players, and not all 1,494 of them probably were playing competitive decks. So but at least it looks like 1,000 of them were from the breakdown. We had a Rescue Ace at 12%, and then Pearly and Two Elements each at 8%, and then Unchained and Menadium at 7%, and then Labyrinth, Flunder, Vanquished Soul at 4% each. And then it kind of, tapers off around there with Dragon Link, Rika, and Chimera having 1 or 2% each only. And then every deck after that, they kind of group them into others. Like if fewer than 20 people were playing a deck, they just grouped it into other, and that was
there's obviously like
41%,
the other
did any
issue
of those
of like
top? Sorry, and then
I feel like
among the others, I'm just gonna really quickly just say which ones topped. Infernoble, because I don't believe that was in so Infernoble had 4 people top with various engines, it looks like. And then Kashtira had 1 person top, Horus had 1 person top, Salamangrate had 1 person top, and Mikanko had 1 top. Those are from the other categories, which means that which decks did not convert? I don't think no Dragon Link topped, and also Adonomorphia topped.
Flunderies, right?
No, I don't think any Flunderies topped.
The Flunderies didn't. I mean, like it just didn't convert.
Yeah. I'm saying so of the decks that had like, I'm gonna say in air quotes major representation in that 4% is not major representation. Vanquished Soul did not, Flunderies did not, and Dragon Link, and also it looks like no branded or Chimera decks topped either. So no branded, no Chimera.
That's like 2 American YCSs in a row. That
no branded. Yeah. So
I think Dortmund did have a branded.
It did.
I'm pretty sure it did. Yes, that's why I specified.
No. I'm just saying, like, I feel like that is more of a European deck at this point. I feel like I only see Italians playing branded, and I only see Italians doing well with branded. But doing well is relative because it's always a losing top 64 situation.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
yeah, it is all relative, isn't it? But yeah. So as far as the decks that as far as the conversion goes, Rescue Ace, Pearly, Two Elements, Unchained, Menadium were the decks that, like, those decks had basically double or more of all the other decks. Like those 5 decks together were how much percentage? about 45% of all the decks were those 5 decks. So how they converted, Unchained had the best conversion. 1/4 of Top Cut was Unchained, even though it was the 4th most represented deck. And then Tier Elements had a much better showing. It was the second highest placing deck in Top Cut, as opposed to Indie, where it had the worst conversion of any of the top played decks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Rescue Ace also have the same number of, let's see, 13%. What? Okay, sorry. What is that, 4 people? That's what that would be, right? 13% of 32. Yeah. We had 4 Rescue Aces also top. Which is I guess if 12% of the field is Rescue Ace and then 12% of Top Cut is Rescue Ace, I guess they actually did fine. Like, it was the most played deck and wasn't the deck that had the most tops in Top Cut, but I guess technically it didn't underperform. I guess its conversion rate was about equivalent to its entry rate. And then Labyrinth Pearly, 4 different Inferno. Like, they have really weird. They specify Sinful Spoils Infernoble, just Infernoble, and Sinful Spoils McConko in Infernoble.
That's
I don't know
the
what
issue that
I
I
don't know what
don't
that even means.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I don't know what
that's
that
why
means.
I feel like it kind of skews it a little bit more. When I look at these breakdowns, because it's like you'll look at something like Horus Terelement and then like Terelement, it's like, okay, like this didn't have to be. I don't think this had to be distinguished. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
it's
I
Terelement.
agree.
Like we're good here. It's like
Yeah.
Terelement asterisk Horus, sure. Like if
Yeah.
you wanna break it down from there, but don't put it in the pie chart, please.
Yeah,
Just
but
confusing for everyone.
yeah. So the main takeaway from this, also, top 4 or the finals was an Unchained Mirror. So the main takeaway I think everyone had from Indy was that everyone kind of knew Rescue Ace was probably going to be the deck to beat, but there's a whole lot of asterisks and, well, it's probably going to be the most played deck, but it's a pretty wide field, and Tier Elements was really popular. And then we saw Tier Elements have an abysmal showing at Indy. A lot of people entered with it, and not many people topped. I think it only had 2 in top 32. And then Rescue Ace had Rescue Ace was, what, 12 of them topped Indy?
It was a crap ton.
Do you think it was more
was
people
insane.
wanting to play with like the new shiny toy?
No, I think it was that people weren't.
One.
I think it. I personally. Well, so yes, I think that's part of it. Definitely, some people played Rescue Ace because it was the new deck. But I think the reason it did so well is, again, because it was the new deck. I mean, not that like the Sinful Spoils cards, and not just to say that like people weren't expecting it. It was like people hadn't had enough time to play against it properly. If I had to guess, right? Even things as simple as where you should be using your points of interaction. I think people, even I probably were getting some of them. I didn't play many Rescue Ace mirrors, so I can't actually speak as to like, I don't remember what my mindset going into that event was, but after watching a lot more games played, I can tell you what I would do now. I watched Steven Santoli's deck profile after he won Indy, and he was talking about his reasonings for some cards and why he did stuff. And one thing he mentioned was Rescue Ace doesn't really have a fantastic choke point most of the time, right? It's generally just going to be, I mean, there's like Ash on Emergency is like fine, right? That's like you can hold Ash for emergency or whatever. But when they summon the Diabellstar monster, a lot of the time he said, I'm just going to impermanent or Veiler it, because you can't, because Emergency can let them dodge impermanent or Veiler on other cards. And a lot of the time they're just going to discard a card, summon the Diabellstar. I'm going to impermanent. They're going to be down a card in that exchange because the Diabellstar body doesn't really do anything very tangible. And then if their hand isn't great, they're going to have to use a lot of resources to keep playing. And if their hand is even worse, they just pass. And I truly think a lot of people were probably just throwing their hand traps. Like, they were trying to like almost next level, and they were holding their hand traps for things that probably didn't make any sense. Like they
Yes,
were holding their
100%.
hand traps for
So,
like
like,
Yes.
if they have
yeah.
like Impermavailer, they were
They
holding
would
it
hold it
to
for
hit
turbulence.
for turbulence, and by that
Yeah.
time they can like get to a point where they can play around or mitigate
Yeah.
those cards.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and so I think that's a huge point of that people have learned to play against Rescue Ace more effectively, and with not only their hand traps, but I think also a lot of people. This has been a thing since the beginning of time, where when people have to play into back row, they lose their
Mm.
minds and they play
Yes.
their cards
Face
incorrectly.
down cards.
Yes.
Even though I saw them get set face down. Yes, I
I
agree.
still have friends. I have friends that they're good at Yu-Gi-Oh. Like they can break a board when everything is presented in front of them. It's a lot easier. As soon as cards get set, they just like I have no idea what's going on. It's just like they
Yes.
become stupid. It's crazy.
They
And
start
I'm there and I'm like,
drooling on the
this isn't a
Yeah.
bad
table.
matchup. I have friends who are like, I cannot beat this deck. I'm like, my brother, this deck has been unplayable for the last 3. It's like I can't beat Alta guys. I'm like, dude, this is pre-support. I'm like, brother, it came out 10 years ago. Oh my god. So
Yes.
common. It's like, yes, you can't beat Ghost, and we understand, but it's like, no, I can't beat Dogmatica Punishments. Like, I guess, dude. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh,
once people start to like practice against what cards to play into their back row to force certain cards. So like in like certain matches, like I was playing Unchained, and so I want to force my opponent to activate certain of their trap cards so that other of my cards become favorable or like or
Yeah.
whatever.
Like you've
And like
created like an order of operations in your head of just like I'm gonna do it
mhm.
this way, and then they're gonna have to use it here, and then I can capitalize like that, right?
and
Or
other
like you had
people,
like a
yeah,
plan.
like yeah, other people probably would just throw their cards and hope that they stick, or like
Mhm.
hope that certain things happen, and like it would not work as planned, and then all of a sudden one of the rescuers trap cards would completely shut down an entire turn. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my guy got contained. Now I cannot link with it.
Now I
And,
cannot
It's
touch him. I
but
cannot look at him.
it's also like it's like those cards are there,
Mhm.
yes, yes,
right?
yes.
Like that's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
there's no like hidden techniques or whatever Naruto thing Ryan would say here. It's like you know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
setting 4 cards. We now know like maybe they're activating the one when they have Hydrant, but otherwise it's like 4 are usually known. One is
Yeah.
unknown. Like it's not particularly difficult, but I can see where people are just like, like how do I deal with this? You know,
Yeah.
For
they don't
sure.
have conventional like removal in their deck where they would have maybe something like like I activate a card like Tactics, right? Like Tactics isn't good into set 4, set 5, but like it's good into like a monster. Like it'll eat a negate on a good day. It might steal a card. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
that's I think
That's like
people are just
randomly.
so
That
used
was randomly
they're
another
used to
thing
that.
too. We're like forcing your opponent to like prevent her to make talents live. Like that was like
Mm,
another that came up a lot too when playing against Rescue Ace. But still, like same thing. We're like all they have these points of interactions, and between the set cards and like emergency prevent like puts up like another point of interaction. I feel like a lot of people were just like struggling to learn how to navigate their cards into those back row. And now that some time has passed, people have gotten better at doing that, which leads Rescue Ace into not doing as well. Still good because it's a good deck, but
Yes.
now
mhm.
that people are like familiar with it, and so can not only
I
prepare their decks for it, but
I do want to
also play
see
better against it.
what card. So they posted the top 4 deck lists, and I do want to just
mhm.
check real quick what cards that they played, if anything out of the ordinary. Like maybe in the side
Chris
deck.
was playing Dark Ruler No
Yeah.
More in the main deck for his Pearly deck. Pack's
Mhm.
deck was more combo oriented. I think he didn't want to play. He said he didn't want to play hand traps in his main. So I don't. I think he was like all gas, sort of vibe. Funnily enough, the Infernable deck was like quite good into the more mid rangey strategies. Like the cards just presented really well into decks like Rescue Ace, and like Unchained to an extent. It just seemed pretty reasonable, so it didn't really need to have too many going second cards.
Well,
But if
well,
it queued into like another FTK deck, it was like obviously it's just
uh,
difficult. But
Pack played 12 hand
He
traps
did
in
play
his
12 hand
deck.
traps in his main, yeah.
oh wait, no,
I'm looking at
who
his
am I
deck
Yeah.
list
thinking
right
of?
now.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, no, I'm thinking of was it? I just remember Pack saying it was. Jibriel didn't play hand traps, or Pack play. One of them didn't play hand traps.
Okay,
That's,
well,
that's all I
Pack played
remember.
12.
I must have confused the two. No, Pack is playing 12 then. My bad.
Yeah.
Which I would say is more than the average deck. I'd say like
Yeah,
9,
I'd
like
say
a
9
solid
is
9.
the average. I will
But we do
say
see an
Joey
uptick
played
in hand
10.
traps. Where no, I think he played
Yeah,
11 actually.
maybe 11. Yes,
He
11. You're
also
right.
sided
11.
a good chunk as well.
Yeah, he
It
played
just
11.
that was a lot.
And sided 9 more. If you consider Phantasme a hand trap, which I sort of do. Like
I do.
It's like
Yeah.
it's
It
close
turns
enough.
on
Yeah,
thrust.
like
I
it's
consider it a hand trap.
Yeah,
That's
it
all.
turns on thrust. Yeah, sure.
That was my side. My side deck was like 9 more hand traps. Like
Mhm.
Yeah, and Chris also mained 12, and he sided how many more? He sided Shifter. That's so he just sided Shifter, but no other ones. Yeah, so we saw all the top 4 decks maining a lot of actually, I didn't look at the second place deck list. Let's see how many he played. 1, 2, 3.
he played
4, 5,
his was more
6.
standard. His was
He
like,
played
like a really clean
9.
deck list.
Yeah, he played 9. Yeah. Was he the only one? He's the only one who played 40 cards in top 4.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah. Very, very lean, I will say. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah. So definitely like we also saw, I think this is also where a bunch of people, like, including probably me, like leveled themselves at indie, and then maybe the illusion sort of like unraveled of like Nibiru isn't good because of SP, and SP can make Nibiru like not be very impactful. And then I think it now kind of came full circle to Richmond, where a bunch of people probably just weren't playing around Nibiru because they didn't think they had to, because why would anybody be playing Nibiru when SP is so good against it? And then
So
we
this
see
goes
both
back to
finalists having Nib
what
in their main deck.
before when we were playing the oh my god, the a
Kashira?
Rise Hard deck, Kashira.
Kashira,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're like, oh, no one is playing Nibiru because you just make a Rise Heart and pass.
And then we
But
played Nibiru.
and then we played Nibiru because everyone's like, if everyone's making a Rise Heart pass, you'll just make the big board and lock their entire field, and then they lose a Nibiru. And
Uh-huh.
but it also comes to the fact that I think also people learned that Nibiru is probably the ultimate hand trap when you go first.
Yes.
Forcing your opponent to play into
Ugh.
your board while having Nibiru completely shits on them.
It is.
I'd say it is.
crazy.
I'd say
Especially when
it's
all of your cards are just free and they're presenting a threat, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
never was I able to Nibiru my opponent going second, and it did it end their turn in a way I was like, yeah, that was fine. I was like, oh, this isn't that great. But anytime it was in my hand going first,
Oh,
I was
you
like,
can't lose.
it could.
You
Yeah, it was.
literally
Yeah,
can't lose.
yeah.
This is gonna be a crazy take. I think going first with Nibiru in your hand is better than going first with Maxi in your hand. I actually just think like Nibiru is so like
Nah.
it's so unreasonable to beat Nibiru when you go first. Or
No.
So I would say no, it is not better, but it does have some distinct advantages to where you force your opponent to throw all their cards into and then lose them to Nibiru, where Max C is they probably just stop, right?
Yeah.
So it creates two different situations, I think. So I can a situation with Nibiru, like your opponent wastes all of their cards to try and beat your board, and then you Nibiru them, and then the game is over right there.
I
Whereas
guess it also depends on like what your board is presenting. Like if you're trying to do a minimalist board where your Nibiru is getting enough value and like you didn't invest too many cards, it's like are you like killing them on the following turn? Where like if you make your board, like could you go wider and have Max C? Like it's sort of the layers to it are weirder. But like obviously if you go like Fenrir, add a card, pass, then I mean Maxi and Nibiru are probably interchangeable at that point, right? But you could just as easily die if you Maxi and just have Fenrir on board into some of these decks. I think that's like the other one,
But
right?
I don't think any of
Nibiru is
these decks are doing that. So
no, I'm saying like hypothetically, like we're talking about Maxi being legal, Jeff. Like, yeah.
Yes.
Have you played Master? You
I'm
just
saying-
don't draw Nibiru. You
I'm
just don't
saying
draw a
that
hand trap and you
the
die
reason-
with Maxi. I know what Ryan means.
I think the reason why, like, this is another thing, all this, like, the argument for most of these hand traps is always like, we need Maxi because going second is impossible without Maxi. And then the counter argument is always just, well, you can go first with Maxi and you can never lose. I unfortunately think Nibiru is approaching that territory where going second, it is not even that good. But going first, it is just torrential tribute from your hand that your opponent can't interact with. And is like, I felt this way for a while. And we've definitely mentioned this at least. I can't tell you which episode. We've probably mentioned this more than once, actually, in previous podcasts, where like
Even if
Nibiru is
in
better going
podcasts and among
first.
ourselves, where we
Yeah,
just talk
we've
about
definitely
like
said
the
it
yeah.
a number of times, and yeah, I definitely agree. Like that definitely, and of course we see time. Obviously, not to say Nibiru is unplayable going second. Obviously, there are times Nibiru will be very, very impactful going second as well, but it's much more consistently good. Like there are times even in the Kashtira deck where we talked about where like you make a Rise Heart and then you Prosperity and then now your Rise Heart's gonna attack. Like there have been games where I make a Rise Heart and then activate Prosperity, and my Prosperity reveals Nibiru and I take it. And then I attach Garura under my Arise Heart. And my opponent just looks at me for a few seconds, looks at their hand, and just concedes. Because there is literally, they do not think there is anything they can do. And it's like, maybe that's just
Like they're going to have to
sometimes.
commit to
Yeah.
5 summons to deal with your Arise Heart, then you Nibiru them, and then you kill them on your turn.
Yep.
So
It's it's and as you mentioned earlier, or I think Bowden might have mentioned it, where we're like so many of these decks when they're like playing, they're just floating cards and accumulate, and they're just getting their cards back, and it's like when you're Nibiruing yourself, you're not actually losing resources because so many of your cards can replace themselves.
Especially with a deck like Unchained, which has all these graveyard effects that you can just float on the following turn.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think that makes a lot of sense that Nibiru picked back up again. Even just actually how I mentioned with the SP thing, where SP makes your opponent's nib not great, SP makes your own nib better. Because if your opponent uses an effect, you can SP itself and your own monster, and then Nibiru. And then your cards come back and you win.
Like, what's your opponent gonna do? Pass their turn? No.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna pass their turn, and then you get 2 cards back, and then you kill them.
Yeah.
They have to play into your field to try to kill you.
They literally have to. Yeah. If you there's definitely a world where just in the middle of your opponent's turn, you just go and you just SP your own field away, and they're like, okay, what's going on? And then just get Nibiru'd for their whole life. That's definitely like a situation that probably, and Unchained is very good at making. Unchained actually has a better SP than most other decks because they're not making it with IP. They're using Unchained Soul of Rage. So they're using your monster to make the SP, banishing one of your other cards. Then they're going to SP their own cards away and then Nibiru you. And, great. Like, just good luck with that, I guess. That definitely seems really impressive. We did see the second place deck playing Fenrir in their Unchained deck. I don't know if we've talked about Fenrir's effectiveness as like a tech card. Let's see, did any of the other decks play in there? Well, I don't think Infernoble would play it, but you could play it in Pearly, presumably. He did not. Okay, great. So something that I think a lot of people have kind of like, Fenrir always seems very, I guess I'll say like sensationalized in that like a lot of people say it should be banned, like in Japan where it's banned and it's so good and it's so generic, and then we see so many decks in the TCG just not even play it for various reasons. I think one reason why it was almost never played when it first came out as a tech card was because we had like the full power Ashizu tier mirror matches, right? And if you're playing that mirror match, there was sort of like some consideration of like what happens when you get milled and your opponent darks your Magnamut, and like that was like sort of a real situation, but like not really. It's a much worse situation when you're playing and then your opponent just takes your Fenrir with Asa. And then especially in the little pocket where Hypernova came out when we had tier cache, if you're playing Fenrir in your deck and then your opponent just Asas your Fenrir and searches tier cache, I literally don't know how you ever win, ever. Like that just sounds
never
like
left
so,
the extra deck.
Yeah. That just sounds
the whole
so, huh? What?
I'm pretty sure we kept Asa in for like 99% of the format.
We did, yeah.
Like,
yep.
Well, it was that, and also just like summoning. You force out like the shuffler, right? Like that was just
exactly. Yeah. I mean, like Asa. So like Asa was already in your deck because it can take their shuffler and force them to use it, or like it's
but
already
the
going to be a good
Fenrir
thing.
though. Oh man, when that happens.
But then when that happens, it's just insane. Yeah, you just feel ridiculous when that happens. But yeah, so that was probably a reason why Fenrir, wasn't seeing that much play. And then obviously it was played in the actual Kashtira deck. And it was played, and then when that deck was, the most played deck, obviously Fenrir saw play. Then we had Arise Heart get banned. And then Fenrir and then I think Fenrir wasn't splashed in a bunch of decks because when Kashtira was the best deck, every single deck had Book of Moon in their deck and had all these cards. Like every single deck had so many cards that were built just to beat Kashtira cards. So if
Mhm.
you threw a Fenrir in your other deck, you'd go like summon Fenrir. It would get Book of Moon, and you'd look at your hand of 5 cards that otherwise would not have interacted with a Book of Moon, and you just go, well, here we are. Like, I'm glad that happened. And you would just basically throw a card away for no reason. And that was kind of why I feel like Fenrir didn't see that much play. I think now Fenrir, in theory, trades reasonably well into SP Little Knight and
Unchained is a big one as
IP.
well.
Yeah, it
It
changed.
beats
Like,
Caesar.
yeah, technically it beats Caesar, but then what it does is it just forces out
It
one of their
forces
other
out rage or
interactions,
escape. Yeah, I know.
which is
But like that's
fine.
good because like
Yeah,
otherwise your Fenrir just adds another copy of Fenrir,
of course. Yeah.
right? Yeah, so they have to deal with it when you summon it, which I think is quite big.
Yes, I agree with
So.
that. And we're seeing Fenrir kind of float in and out, and it has good interactions against some cards. And Book of Moon is still like there's still some people playing Book. It's still like actually a fine card, but we definitely see fewer copies than we did, a month ago, right? Like
Yeah.
we see all the books kind of slowly trickling out of people's decks, so there are less cards that just deal with Fenrir as cleanly. But it's still isn't a card that everyone wants. Another thing is going first. A lot of these decks, I think, Jeff, we talked about this a while ago when we were building the Vanquish Soul deck for like the first time, is a lot of these decks, like regular plays, summon 4 monsters. And if you just summon a Fenrir as your first action and then do your
Yes.
regular play, you just get Nibiru'd. like
Mhm.
you just get Nibiru'd for
That
free.
was quite literally the Chimera deck. I was like, oh, can I Nibiru this? And then everyone was like, nah, you can't. And then like the first time I play against it, my opponent summons Fenrir, and then I was like, oh, like that's
I
fine
guess I
now, I
can.
guess.
Yeah, exactly. So in all the decks where Fenrir kind of pushes you into the Nibiru threshold when Nibiru is seeing play, which it is right now, I will definitively say Nibiru is seeing play right now. Like 3 of the top 4 decks mained it. It's seeing
I'll
play.
tell you its play
Yeah.
rate on online Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, that
Right
is a good
now.
one, actually. Yes, please do that. That would be fantastic.
I'm pretty sure it's the 3rd most played card.
Oh,
It was
sure, even better. Below what, like Ash and
uh,
SP? It's probably Ash number 1, then SP, then Nibiru.
uh Ash, it's actually dropped a little bit, but so it's Ash and Infinite Impermanence, the 2 most played cards,
Okay.
obviously,
Yeah.
followed by Droll and Lockbird, Little Knight, Fenrir, Prosperity, and Nibiru. So as far as hand traps go, it's Ash, Imperm, Droll,
I'm surprised
and
that SP
Nibiru.
fell that much. There was a time when SP was like above some of these cards, but I guess when you're playing 3 of these cards in every deck, it probably evens out to you see them more often than you see. I mean, this is the summon. This is the play rate, not the deck included in rate. So I guess that makes more
Yes,
sense.
yes.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. If we're like that, probably. I think the only one that I'm shocked isn't up there is Valor. I think I've seen Valor raise in popularity quite a bit, but maybe it's not
Valor's in
as
the top
high.
10 now.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
1,
Yeah,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, it's in the top 10 now.
sure,
It's the 9th most played card right now.
makes sense. Yeah, that we see this going up, and then yeah, because I think these are probably the hand traps that are best things. But like, I don't think you'd see Bell on anyone's deck. I don't think you'd see Morn on anyone's deck. I don't think those are really as good as they have been in the past. But it all makes sense.
Wait, did you say mono?
I said I don't think we'd see that anywhere.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
like we've seen that card pop up from time to time, but I don't think now would be a time where it
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
I was gonna say like Jesse played it, and if we go with anything I said before, that means other people will play
Are gonna
it.
play it. So yeah, maybe. Yeah, I
Probably.
can definitely say
I
that
know,
happening.
I know one of these other guys who made top 8 with Unchained was also using it in his deck.
Yeah.
In his main deck.
No, it was a
Oh,
side deck
okay,
card.
cool. Yeah,
Jesse sided it also. Yeah, I
sure.
did not side deck that card out. I don't really know. I didn't really understand why. He was just like, sometimes you win in time, sometimes you just negate something,
Sure.
and it's fine. I'm
Yeah,
like, all
I
right,
mean that.
whatever.
Yeah, that's whatever. Yeah. The other card I want to talk about. I think this is the last card I really want to hone in on these lists, which obviously we can. If you guys have other things that you want to talk. Oh, actually, I didn't realize Pack actually cited Fenrir, probably for going second. That's kind of and a Rise Heart.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a reason that
Rise
if he
Heart's
needs a
a
Fire Warrior.
by the
It's
Yeah,
way.
like do you need a
yeah.
Fire Warrior in your hand for
Yeah,
something?
it
Like
just
is
makes
that
us
a
old. Like no, like you just have like you have like like 4 random like warrior normal summon, and then you just like have an extender. I think that was like the theory. You just have like Fenrir floating, and you can still do his old stuff, and you
Sure.
just like try and kill them, or
Sure.
you just like have Fenrir in some matchups.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So the one I want to talk about is Phantasme. So that's a card that's been picking up a little bit. I sided it at Indy, and I really liked it. And Joey sided 3 Phantasme.
I had 3 to my side deck for the weekend
Mhm.
until Jesse convinced me to not.
Mm,
He
okay.
said, basically the reason was like I really liked it,
Yeah.
and he said Jesse was like, I'd rather just have cards that don't turn on tactics and thrust, and also deal with the only problem that Unchained really has, and that's like a Beast Dweller.
Sure.
And so I said, I guess that's understandable, and I
Mhm.
didn't end up playing it. I didn't really miss it at all. I only played against 1 Rescue Ace the entire tournament in 11 rounds, which is like, and I played against
That
one
is crazy, actually. That's pretty.
one Unchained,
Yeah.
in and which would be the other deck I would side it against. But yeah, I thought the card was pretty good going into the tournament, and
Yeah.
I was going to play it until Jesse convinced me not to. But yeah, we do see it here with all these other hand traps.
Yeah, which I think it makes a lot of sense also when you have so many other hand traps, right? And like it doesn't play well with Imperm. So it doesn't play well with Imperm and historically did not play well with Gamma, but Gamma is sort of no longer in the game. They got patched out. So, it's when Gamma is no longer like an obstacle, I guess, to put Phantasma in your deck. I think it seems like maybe we'll see this card crop up a bit more frequently than we had in the past. Just because like all the other hand traps now just work so well with it.
hmm
Um, yeah, but I think it makes sense, especially going into rescue. So it seems really good going into rescue ace because it can negate a trap. Essentially, it can trade into a trap. Like if they're going to use a trap on your guy, then you discard a card to negate it. Then they have to use their other trap immediately. So you're gonna essentially force both traps, or they'll just let the trap get negated. It filters your hand, and it gives you a monster. And I think this is a really big important one. It gives you a monster with enough attack points to threaten Little Knight just for free,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you really, really need to, you can just go battle. And if they have an IP or an Unchained Soul of Rage or an SP, you just go battle, and they have to make a decision right there, right? Phantasme does not play well with Fenrir. That is one thing it doesn't play well with. Although with the release of SP, there are definitely a lot more situations where you can just make a link 2 that will clear itself, right? In a more like logical situation. Like previously, you would have to use like Donner, but I think SP is a much more logical, like going second link monster that will clear itself from your field. So you can just summon a Fenrir on a clear field. But it doesn't play well with Fenrir, but I think it plays well with pretty much every other card in most of these decks. So I do think it's possible if we don't see a steep shift in the format with the release of Valiant Smashers, which I don't think we will, but we'll talk about that. And if there's no list anytime soon, I definitely think Phantasm is a card that can start cropping up uh, more. Even I honestly think Phantasma can even crop up in some more control strategies. Something that like a card that I think my opinion has kind of yo-yoed on a ton is Typhon, and I think there is some merit to consider like Phantasme or similar cards in more trap heavy decks. And when you go second, you just essentially start your turn with a monster on your field and you just slap Typhon on it because it's going to be, you're not summoning anything. And then Typhon can help you clean up their board a little bit. Like maybe it'll bounce something, attack over something, and then you set your traps. And I think that puts you in a much more reasonable scenario than most other than you would have been able to in the past with a lot of these decks. But
hmm
um, I don't know how tangibly that can really translate into results because that seems like a lot has to go right. But we'll see. That's just an idea I had right now that I wanted to throw out there before it got lost into the void. So do you guys have any other cards that you noticed in these decks that you want to talk about, or should we move on to Valiant
I
Smashers?
think Dark Ruler was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like uh in the feature match that we got to watch it, it was quite sticky in Chris's hand, right? But it never felt like there was an opportune moment, and it would really just trade similar to a card like Impalm. But I think Ruler trading the way Imperm does when we know that a lot of cards like Imperm don't actually work as a hand trap. It's like usually like Imperm as your sixth into like Unchained is better just activated on Caesar. Or it's like, okay, well, if we have Ruler, we're just using it on Caesar, that's fine. And then I guess we double up against decks like Manadium, right? If they're not doing the Omega Loop stuff.
Yeah.
Dark Ruler is
Well,
probably,
Vanadium gets a search of counter
they have
traps.
the trap, right?
I
Sure,
don't think
sure,
that's right.
sure.
So I think actually like it's decent into Rescue Ace. If Rescue Ace is ending on like some way to do SP and then also Preventer. So starting off just those two cards, I think is, and then if you have the field spell for Pearly, like you don't have
Oh,
to like
that's
worry
real.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you go Dark Ruler Field Spell, you actually just destroy Rescue Ace. Like, there's actually not much they can do. That's a good point.
Um, yeah, that means they can't like float their field away because like or whatever. Like they can't make their field go away with SP to like have a play next turn. Other than that, I don't think it's like too great against Unchained because you are just kind of basically hitting with the board you're ending on. It's usually just Caesar and then trap
Yeah.
cards, and then if they hit the Caesar, it effectively is just
It's
imperm.
really easy to just like flirt rage or like you have escape and then Dark Rulers.
I
That's what we saw in that match as well. Like
I
there
will
was, it
argue.
never felt like there was the correct moment. Like actually, there were a couple weird ones where I think Joey activate it was weird. It was just a very weird thing of sequencing where it's like this Dark Ruler could be really good here, and then it just felt like both of them made these very awkward plays where like the Dark Ruler just invalidates itself both times. I don't know. It just didn't look like a card. It
Yeah,
felt really awkward.
I will say that Pearly, in my opinion, does have to get rid of Like, if you don't get rid of Caesar, Caesar
Yeah.
just rips two cards out of your hand essentially. So like,
Uh huh.
I'll
Yes.
argue it's pretty important for them to negate Caesar. But I guess like if you really get down to it, that's only saving one card. I get, like you activate a Pearly spell, it gets negated. You activate a Pearly spell, it gets negated. Like, I guess
Well, like maybe
you're
maybe
only
they're just
saving one card
anticipating
versus
like
Dark
Jeff
Ruler.
said. He's like, what if these people are just going like very very wide? Like
Yeah,
every end ball is involving an IP, right? Like
yeah, sure.
I don't know, but yeah, like the more I think about it, because the Infernable deck also has a way to beat Ruler, right? They set up,
Yeah, it's
uh,
the Angelic Ring. The
uh,
Angelic Ring makes
yeah,
you
yeah,
play,
yeah,
and it gets the first spell played, so it means they have to play a first
yeah.
spell
You have
and
to
then
burn
Dark
two
Ruler
cards,
afterwards.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's before you get into the whole idea of like they probably prioritize Dolphin in some way depending on their hand,
And looked at your hand.
and like
Yeah,
that's ripping a card. Like, I yeah, there's too many layers to it. I don't know. Yeah, it just felt really awkward, but like I haven't played enough of this format to like know if this is doing enough into other decks. And like I'm pretty sure he plays like a billion hours of Yu-Gi-Oh, so there's something there. Maybe they found something that we didn't, so who knows? But
yeah, for sure.
there was something else that stood out. Let me brush through the list as well, really quick. Um, do we want to talk about like the Sangan thing, or is this like too deep? Because I think we're only looking at the top eight
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I mean,
Or
we can
sorry,
just
the top
quickly.
four
So
stuff.
like, some people were
I think
playing
the
Sangan.
Sangan thing we're like, yeah, like that's pretty cool. I think the Jesse combo for Sangan is interesting for sure. Um,
We
and like
we
that
we we
helps.
never did it though. I don't think it ever came up.
Yeah,
Um,
it seems kind of thin. But like having the option to just like tutor out a Droll and Lockbird into these heavy combo decks while also having your base combo is pretty good, right? But like this deck also had the issue, and this is something that I noticed like really early, and then I Jesse has a video and he's just like, yeah, this happens. It's like this is why people don't like the format. I'm like, yeah, that's why I didn't like it. You draw these hands of like the double ups or the bricks in Unchained specifically, right? Like you draw a Requiem, no spell, your hand's now 4 cards. And I feel like you need all 5 cards in the Unchained deck, especially when people are playing hand traps, to function. And Sangan is another card that needs to not be drawn, right? That's like a very big one. And if you draw it, you now have to have like these specific combinations of cards to make it better than setting or normal summoning any other card that you could have in hand. So like multiple normal summons becomes like really awkward. Even those hands where you draw like Sarama Rikea, you're quite depressed. You know, drawing Shyama, it's just like your opponent breathes on you and then you just pass it. I don't know if adding more cards like the Sangan on top of a card like Droll, where it's just like you could draw a copy of Droll and this Sangan or this Fiendish Rhino, and it's like you
So
can play sometimes, but
that's what happened a lot. Is any time that you could do like not just tour guide for Sangan, but like the Sangan combo with
they're not
Cherubi.
normal, so yeah, like Shavara trap
y-
stuff.
The
Yeah.
hands we kept drawing always like had Droll already in it, so it's like there's no reason to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. What if this
Sure.
But
Sangan was just another hand trap?
Yeah.
Screw it. But yeah, no, I think it's cool. I like when decks that were already, you know, like powerful enough, you can add some sort of depth to it and adapt to the format. I think that Sangan was definitely like an interesting takeaway from this weekend for sure, especially with the Cherubini stuff, and like obviously you can check out Jesse's video. There's like other combo stuff, so it's cool to see how adaptable a lot of these decks are when they do look like, you know, it's like here's a chunk of engine, here's a chunk of non-engine. It's like, yeah, we have some text, you know, there's still some stuff we can do with the deck. But I think that covers Richmond.
Yeah.
And congratulations to Joey as well. First first win.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's
I've known
always
Joey for like 10 years, so I'm very happy that he won. I've not
it's
yeah,
nice.
like he yeah, he's a local guy that I really like. So I'm really happy for him. But yeah, let's think Valiant Smashers, right? That seems to be let me
so
actually
before that, because
uh-huh.
we were supposed to do this at the very beginning, we're giving away
That's
a
your
box
fault.
of rarity collection.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I opened a lot of rarity collection, and we had a lot of subscribers and followers recently, for better or for
Yes,
worse.
literally for
And
better or for worse.
and so I thought it would be nice to give back to the people who are subscribing. So I will say it now and at the end of the video. If you're listening, we're giving away a box of rarity collection to one of the people who are subscribed to us. So if you're subscribed to us, also leave a comment in the comment section telling us what your favorite rarity and card is from this set, and then maybe you can win something
From Rarity Collection or from Valiant Smashers?
from rarity
Rarity
collection. That's what we're
collection.
talking about.
Sure. Okay, but also, hey Jeff, what's the criteria to like enter this? Like, do I have to be within the continental United States only, or can I be from Australia or Europe for all of our foreign listeners?
I did not think about that.
Exactly. Well, the fact I brought it up now, you are thinking about it. Ryan, you can cut this one.
We'll do it live. It's fine.
All right, awesome.
I
By the end of the video, Jeff will have made a decision
I
about it.
I guess as long as it doesn't cost me $100 to ship it to you, I will ship it to you.
Very good. All right, that's fine. That's you know what? That's fair. All right. Okay. So now Valiant Smashers. This is a set that has done a little bit in Japan, I believe, and by that I mean I've seen a couple Centurion decks, and that did okay.
Yeah.
No,
but
it struggled.
the other than that, I think the
I think
other
it's
two
got.
decks
I think I
seem
got
not
second recently.
good. Second in
It was in
what?
a 350-person tournament
Let's see.
in China.
Let's see.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah, here it
the
is. Yeah.
China City tournament
Horus Centurion, huh?
was held on November 4th, November 5th, had 350 participants. Yeah, Horus Centurion got second in this 300, and the winner was Sinful Spoils Snake Eye Fire King. We'll talk about that later too. Probably. Because the Fire King deck's actually coming out soon, so we can either talk about
comes out
next month. Like
that's next month.
Week,
Yeah. So
2 weeks or something.
Yeah, let's stick with Valiant Smashers for now, and then we'll pivot to that at the end probably, because I know that you actually like those cards, Jeff, not fake like them.
I really like the Fire Kings. I'm really excited to play them.
All right, so Valiant Smashers has 3 decks: the Memento.
It's just the Memento deck.
Yeah, we'll call it Memento. That's good. Centurions, and then Volmonica is the other one. I read all of these cards when they were announced and have not read them since. So as far as these go, I vaguely remember what they do, but don't remember much beyond that. Okay, so before we go into the actual like contents of the pack, I'm just looking at the rarity breakdown, and I okay, I don't like this. So you know how these sets have rares and supers and ultras, and these packs are, I believe, 4 rares and then 1 foil, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking here, and let's see, how many rares are there? There are 35 rares, 15 supers, and 10 ultras. Of the 35 rares, 3, 4, 5. Of the 35 rares, I believe 30 of them are reprints. That can't be right. Sorry, let me confirm before I get upset about this. Of the 35 rares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Of the 35 rares, 29 of them are reprints. I don't like that. So when you open a pack of this, you are almost always, like extremely frequently, going to get 4 reprints in your pack. And
yes.
yeah, I don't think I like that. Am I unjustified in saying I don't like that? Am I
I think, yeah.
Huh. That's
I would say that when you buy a brand new pack focusing on 3 new archetypes, and if you open a pack and pull 0 new cards, that probably feels pretty
I'm gonna
bad to
see if
a.
any reprints are foil. I just want to see if it's possible. I don't think any reprints are foil. So unless you pull a collector's rare of a reprint,
Yeah,
at
if you pull,
least one
yeah.
card will be. But yeah, okay, sorry. Let me collect my thoughts on this real quick so I don't just sit here going I don't like this for 5 minutes. Yeah, but what you said pretty much hits it on the head. I feel like I would not have fun opening this set if that's so weird. Okay. That's just bizarre, right?
So there are 5 new cards that are rare only.
6. There are 6.
1,
There's
2,
a
3, 4. Oh, there's 6,
yeah,
6. Yeah. Okay.
I also missed the one that you missed. I also missed. Yeah. Yes, there are 6. 6 out of 35 rares are new cards and 29 are reprints. And yeah, I feel like a lot of the time, I guess I don't know I'll do the math on it later, I guess, at some point, because I do want to get the exact number of how frequently you will open a pack of 4 reprints. That just doesn't sound fun. And it also means it's going to take, like, so is every single Centurion card a foil? Every single one?
So you can look at you can sort by new cards, new
Okay,
lists. So,
good. Let's
which
do
is what
that.
I just did. So
Yeah.
then we have Centurion, we have Ultra, 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 Super, Ultra, Super, Super, Super. Yes, every
Every
single one
single Centurion card is a foil.
is a Super or higher. Yes.
So, and what did we determine? These are what, 3 ultras per box and 21 super rares? Is that right?
Is it 21 super rares? There's 15 supers in the set, so um,
Yeah, but I'm saying per box, right? Because you get a super rare. You only get 3 ultras in a box.
you only get 3 ultras in a
Yeah, so then the
box.
rest are
Yes,
super rares.
dude, I don't. Do you get a super rare in every pack?
You do, yeah. In deck building packs,
Oh,
you
and
do,
these.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh,
These
15
sets are so
supers.
bizarre. All right, this is so weird
I hate
to
them.
evaluate.
I literally hate them.
This is so weird to evaluate. So
So while Ryan wants to think about evaluating it, I will
yeah,
talk about
yeah,
the Centurion deck
yeah. Please
because
do.
something I've talked about before, I'm pretty sure, is that I'm really sick of them creating synchro decks that are these all-in synchro decks. Like, I mean, you have the um, you know, the TGs recently, which is another like all-in synchro deck.
Which is funny because back
Um,
then TGs used to be like a control deck. which is really funny to think about. That TG's won, was it 2011 Nationals? 2011 NA Championship, and it was like a skill
Yes.
drain control floater deck with like a light synchro ability because of Striker, right? So to turn them into some weird all-in, like, discard your all hand, make 5 synchro monster deck is so bizarre to me.
And then you have
That's
the same thing with
they went.
like Vanadium, which is also like another like synchro based deck, which is just a combo deck. So I wanted them to do less things. Also, what was what was another one? Oh, where they got Scarecrow banned, the Pendulum synchro deck.
Yeah, Super Heavy Samurai.
Super Heavy Samurai. Yeah. So less decks like that, more decks like Sword Soul, and the cool part is that this deck is more like Sword Soul,
Yeah.
where you put your monsters into your spell and trap card zone as trap cards, and then special summon them and synchro summon. Um, and they only have one synchro monster right now, which is a good one. When it's a level 12, it's generic, so you can play it in things that are not Centurion. When it's summoned, in any way. So if you summon it from the graveyard, you can also use the effect. You get to draw a card, then destroy the monster your opponent controls with the highest attack, which is pretty good. And then during the end phase, you can place a Centurion monster from your graveyard face up into your spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap. Uh, so while all of this is cool and it is very kind of like Sword Soul esque, the worst part about it is that the way you win with this deck is just Crimson Dragon into Archfiend King Calamity, uh, which is the sad thing. So you're not
Yep.
summoning 10,000 synchro monsters and ending with Baron, Hot Red Savage, whatever, like before, but you're just summoning one synchro monster and then summoning Crimson Dragon and ending your turn. Sometimes you get to end with a counter trap to make sure your opponent can't stop your hot red from coming out, which is also pretty dumb. But it is my hope in the future that Hot Red Dragon Archfiend gets banned and they create a new synchro monster for this deck that you can use, probably a level 8 synchro monster, I'm guessing, so that this deck feels less linear. It is very linear. It is literally just the same thing every hand, literally like Sword Soul was, except instead of summoning Chi Shao plus a level 10, it's just a level 12 and then Crimson Dragon, basically, um, which is pretty unfortunate. But um, I think it's like not bad. I think the Horus version that got second is actually like pretty good because it gives you more flexibility with how you do things. They're level 8s and you have a level 4 tuner, so you can make 12s. There's also a version where you can play with the Resonators, the new Resonator cards from the Jack Atlas deck. Because the Centurion field spell says that the turn you activate it, you can discard a card to place a Centurion monster from your deck into your spell and trap card zone. And the Resonator stuff you can use as a small engine with like 3 Vision Resonator and 1 copy of Crimson Gaia. You can use these as like, so if you draw a Vision Resonator, you can either send it with Imseti or King Sarcophagus or State Up Centurion, which is the field spell, and then get the card you want, and then Vision Resonator will search you Crimson Gaia, and then Crimson Gaia lets you add Vision Resonator to your hand again to special summon from your hand as a level 2 tuner. So then you can use like Emisseti and Vision Resonator to make Baron or like any other synchro monster you want. So it's a nice little engine you can use to splash in that I think is pretty cool that I have in my version right now. But these other decks, the uh, Memento is one of the worst things I've read in quite a while. It's they're
Comically bad.
comically bad.
Are they
Yes.
really? So
Yeah.
the only thing I remember reading about them is I do remember um I think this is really funny. Like I looked at the boss monster, right? Like I literally just opened it. I looked at
Yep.
its stats and it said 5,000, 5,000, and I said this card must be unplayable.
Yes.
I know that's a really backwards way to like evaluate it, but my mind just said if they are giving this card 5,000, 5,000 stats, it must be the worst card I will ever read in my life. Like there is nothing, and like okay, you shuffle back five memento monsters, okay, while and then it can attack all monsters while you control once per turn. If you don't have this card effect, you can special summon memento monsters from your hand or graveyard. Okay,
Yeah,
that
so
doesn't do
you know what
anything.
this card reminds
That
me of?
doesn't do anything.
That is also very big and 10 times better than this card and
Yeah,
was printed ages ago
yeah.
is Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. That
Yes, but that card's actually
th-
good. That card's
yeah,
actually
so this card's printed in 2023,
yeah.
2024 era and it's
Yeah.
just completely unplayable in terms of a card that's existed for when did this card come out? I'm going to see when the Ultimate Conductor
Conductor
came out.
6 years ago to
Is it 6 years
2017.
ago?
2017, yeah.
2017?
Yep. Came out in the middle of Zodiacs, I believe, right before or right after
Yeah,
Raging Tempest.
2017. Yeah. So a card that is 6 years old
Is a
is
lot
not only
better
easier to summon, it has a better effect all around,
and more support also.
and infinite more support. It's quite sad because also I think the mementos are pretty cool because they are all based off of old normal monsters in the game. So you have like Trihorn Dragon, you have Dark Blade, um, uh, what is this one? Tatsunoko. This one's a Tatsunoko. What is this one based off of again? Trivia. Uh, uh,
Who are you looking at?
Tatsu. Oh, Tatsu no Chigo, which is a Japanese card. We don't even have
Yeah,
this
we didn't
card.
even get that one. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
only
yeah.
it was in one of the 1999 booster sets that never made it to North America, and they've actually done a good job at like putting a lot of these cards that used to be vanilla only Japanese exclusive cards into Speed Duel, but now Speed Duel has gotten power corrupt to the point that that's no longer viable, so they
Hmm.
don't do that anymore. But they did a
Yes.
couple of them in Speed Duel, which is cool. But yeah, unfortunately, Tatsunu Togosho was never an English card. So you may have nostalgia for some of these cards like Trihorn Dragon and Key Mace and stuff like that, but if you say you are nostalgic for Tatsunoto Shigo, you are lying. You do not have nostalgia for a level 5 vanilla with 1350 attack that never came out in America. That never came out in English or any other country outside of Japan. You were just lying. But, here we are.
Yeah, they're but knowing Konami, they will. I mean, I guess these could get like the Makanko treatment, where basically all the Makanko cards released after the Makanko set were basically unplayable. Like they got like a new Ultra Rare monster, unplayable. You don't play it. You play literally like a common that was released before you
Yeah.
play any of these other things. So maybe they might just get that kind of treatment. But I have a feeling that Centurion, not only does Centurion more marketable, I think, because of the way of the card art. So they're
I
based
think
off like
Centurions look cool. They have a
yeah,
cool mechanic, and they're definitely the most competitively viable of the three. So I agree with
yeah,
you completely in that Centurion is the most marketable for literally every reason imaginable. Centurion is the most marketable archetype coming out of this set for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So I have a feeling that they might get the kind of like quote unquote like pearly treatment or like rescue ace treatment where they
Yeah,
release better cards for them than the other ones. Uh, Valmonica is a weird one because it does do something that no other deck has really. I don't. I like so when you think about Valmonica, I cannot. Usually, when decks come out now, I can compare it to a deck that's come out previously. I do not think that's the case for Valmonica. It is a really bizarre deck that revolves around basically like every form of summoning. I think they have pendulums, links, and maybe is it a fusion or am I just
I don't think they. I think they only have links.
is it link? Oh
I
no,
think
no,
I think it's pendulums and links.
pendulum and links. There's two
Yeah,
link monsters. That's what it is,
yeah,
not fusion monsters.
yep.
Yeah. Um, and there's a light and dark Felmonica monster that are pendulums, and they are based around having each of them in your pendulum scales and gaining life points, and I think dealing damage.
Yeah, which I do want to say
And
one thing about the Valmonicas is like
yeah,
because so both of them they have a restriction on link summon. You have to have a resonance counters on your field. I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit. But both of these link monsters break almost every design convention and like rule about link monsters. And
Yes.
I want to talk about a couple, like this one that I'm sure most people don't know. I think every single link monster except for, I think, literally 5. I think there are 5 link monsters in the entire game, maybe only 4. I don't know if these 2 might bring it up to 5 that break this rule. A link monster can only have 1,000 attack points times its link rating. That is true for literally 99%. So a link 2 will not have more than 2,000 attack. A link 1 will not have more than 1,000. I think it's literally the Sky Strikers. So there's the Sky Strikers. So these 2 might bring it up to like 7 or 8. There's the Sky Strikers that are link 1s that have more than 1,000. And then there's like the code the virus code link 2. That guy has more than 2,000. And there's some crazy world legacy link 3 that needs it's like 3 level 5 or higher monsters, and it's like 3,500 or something. And then
well, there's also Charles as well.
Yes, and then Charles is another, the weird ones that need like specific. Yeah, he's also a weird one. So maybe there have been. I guess I'll briefly check. It might be up to 10 now, but I'm gonna say like basically we can probably pick out fewer than 10 link monsters that break that convention of just. I did forget about Charles, so maybe the number these might bring that number to like 10, but like almost every link monster does not break that threshold. Additionally,
so there
these are
4,
the
8, 12. There's 13.
13. Okay, out of how many link monsters total?
Oh, geez.
Which I can actually find that information for you in a second. Out of
There's
384.
3 pages of...
Actually, plus these. So out of
sorry.
almost 400
that
link
was for
monsters.
I'm sorry. That was for link 1 monsters.
Oh, okay.
Link
Maybe
1,
I'm just way off on this.
there are 12 link 1 monsters that
12 link
have
ones that have more
1,100
than-
attack or more.
Sure. And then yeah, okay. So I guess I'll be conservative and just say maybe my count is way off, and maybe it's almost 20.
There
but
are
there's, like...
4 link 2s with 2,100 or more attack.
Okay.
However, I would like to say that the ones that do also have like really weird summoning conditions. So like one is Dino Mondo, which takes a ritual monster,
Yeah,
right?
that is yeah.
One is Gold Pride Nitro Blaster, which requires Gold Pride monsters, and then there's Cyber Dragon Seeker, which is 2,100 because
That's Cyber Dragon. Yeah. So I guess the point, I'll reel it in. The point I'm trying to make is the only link monsters that break this convention of 1,000 attack points. I guess the Sky Strikers are easy to summon, but other than that, are all weird, crazy ones that have weird summoning requirements, right? And these definitely fit the bill in that 3 or more resonance counters must be on fairy monster cards in your pendulum zone. That is a insane, ridiculous requirement of link summoning this. And it's 2,500, which other than Charles, I guess, might be the highest attack of any of the link ones. The other one is, these are I think the first link ones. I think the only other link ones that might have this are like, have specific requirements. Maybe Kana and Hayate. I believe these are the first generic link ones that point diagonal. Like, you can extra link. I think, did they make this monster yet? Hold on, before I just spread misinformation. They made a link too that you can point up, right? I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be a link too. It could technically be anything. Did they make this yet? Am I just...
What you mean something that points up
to extra link with just like...
It's the what do you call it? The firewall.
Oh, the firewall. Yeah. So I don't know.
You can extra link with 3 cards. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what your deck would have to look like to make this happen. But with these cards being as easy to summon as they are, and that they need effect monsters, you can extra link with only 3 cards. Not 3 cards, but 3 monsters with the Cyberstorm Access Firewall guy, who's also just generic. Like, yeah, he's a link 6, so it's a lot of monsters, but it's fewer than making all of these link 2s and link 3s was with specific arrows or whatever. You can technically extra link them with 3 monsters. You can have the hollows pointing in the extra monster zones and then the firewall in the middle. So will anyone ever do that now that you can just make monsters in your main monster zone that are not link monsters? Probably not, but funny to think about. Now that I've all right, now that I've burned 11 minutes on this fictitious Valmonica propaganda.
No, yeah, I just think the Volmanica are very strange because they revolve around these pendulum monsters that gain life points, lose life points, and place counters on things, and then uh it just seems so. You know what it reminds me of is almost not, maybe not as extreme, but like the Valiance cards, where the Valiance cards just had like they revolved around field spells. They revolved around fusion monsters. They revolved around pendulum summoning. They revolved around switching zones. They just had all of this, got through all of these different kind of mechanics on these cards, and we're like, this is what it does. And that's what like Valmonica reminds me of. Is like, how do we just make like this extreme archetype deck that does all these weird things, and that's kind of what it does, and it makes me not even want to read them because they are so obscure, honestly. And the same with the Valiants. Like I said, I would never read these cards because they do so many stupid things that I just don't know why they did it. And I feel like Valmonica is like up the same alley.
Um, it's I will say that I I I read almost every card that gets posted, but for cards like this, I agree with you. I read them and I go, this is so convoluted and nonsensical. This will never happen. Nobody will ever play this. And then I do not read them a second time. But I always read them once. Like I've read every Valence card once. I
Yes.
did not read any of them except for the field spells a second time because I would just looked at it and I was like, the other cards. I think the only cards that I tried to make work when I read them and said these are really convoluted and weird were like Sulfacord. Those
Oh,
all those cards have 19 different restrictions of the odd and even pendulum scales, and they if you have an odd scale it does this, if you have an even scale it does this. You one of them is like you add the level of this, you add the
yes.
scale and the level, and I'm just like, why did they make this? Like because the problem with a lot of these decks is they're so I'm not gonna say like complicated or difficult. They're convoluted
Hmm.
to do nothing. Like to not, like, and they're not like strong decks. Like it's so convoluted to figure out what you're meant to do with them. Then the deck isn't even very strong. And if you do play this not very strong convoluted deck, then you have to explain to your opponent what all these cards do because they definitely don't know.
They're gonna
And
have to read them 100 times,
yeah,
especially
exactly.
when it
And
comes to
it's
pendulum cards, because pendulum cards have extra effects on them.
everyone hates reading pendulum cards. Like everyone hates reading pendulum cards because you got to read the same card twice, depending on where it is or what it's doing. And it's like, oh, what does this do? And I think the other this is going to be like a really weird tangent of just like flaws in design of pendulums, where like they can place a card in the pendulum scale and you can read its pendulum effect. Then they'll like destroy it and trigger an effect. It'll be like, what are you talking about? And then because it triggers its monster effect, and you're just like, well, I didn't even read that one because you played it as a spell. Like I know that's like a
Hmm.
different sort of complaint, but it's like sometimes I feel like the way pendulums are written and the way they're designed were just like so obtuse that I really like. I don't think they should have given any pendulum monsters like effects that like float, like written in the monster zone. Like I just think that was a bad decision. I don't know if any of these do, but it is really just like you just have to read the same card like 5 different times depending on where it is in the field, and it's just yeah. I don't know. I don't think anyone's gonna play these. Unfortunately, I really don't
So
like just saying like this deck seems unplayable, but these seem so convoluted to like.
it seems like you have to do a lot, and the payoff does not seem that great, um, compared to like what you could be doing with another deck. But something I want to point out just before and before we move on to something else, because I really don't want to talk about
Yeah.
Valmonica
Uh
anymore,
huh.
is I feel like almost all of these deck build packs, and I could be wrong, maybe like I feel like a lot of them at least release some sort of archetype with that focuses on two characters. So like you have Pearly, there's two different Pearly monsters,
Yeah.
and then you have Velmonica, which has two different like pendulum monsters that are focused around.
Uh huh.
And I'm pretty sure that there is. and then Live Twins focuses on 2
Yes,
characters again,
absolutely.
and I'm pretty sure there might be another one, but I feel like there's like almost like a common theme in that, and also I feel like there's almost always some sort of like robot theme in them all the time. Some sort of like, even if they aren't robots, they're like or machines, they're like very related to them. Um, so just like random tangents. Maybe the next, I don't know what the next one's going to be, but I
Yeah,
bet
I
there will
don't
be some sort
think they've
of
announced it
dual
yet.
character or robot theme. Um,
Yes, or mecha.
yeah,
Some
some
mecha
sort, yeah,
theme.
mecha, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, all these tend to just kind of blend together. But I do agree with you. But as far as I know, you've given your thoughts on Centurion. Like, do you think this deck will be like really good, or like, do you think this will be? Do you think it's kind of reliant on it getting another support card, like Pearly did and like Rescue Ace did, or do you think it's like my problem with so many of these decks is that out of the box they're non-functional. Like if you tried to play Pearly just with the
The cards from that set.
yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't a deck. Like it didn't do anything. It did not function, right? And then once it got Perlily and Sleeping Memory, it was a lot better. And then obviously once it got the Little Noir, it is complete and it feels like a great deck and it's, whatever. But I feel like out of the box, it was not functional. And then the opposite, sometimes like Vanquish Soul was just an okay deck and then it got its support and it continued to be just an okay deck. Like it,
Mhm.
it didn't. And then Rescue Ace also, I feel like, was a borderline non-functional, and then it got Emergency
Ooh.
and Preventer, and now it's like a real deck.
We can have a
right?
crazy segue here because I wanted to bring up me not knowing that Zhao Long and the Trap were in Master Duel
Ah,
with all the other things.
yes,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So I guess I will. Let's yes, we'll talk about that after this. But like, do you think
Hmm.
Centurion is like functional in its current state? Like
Y-
Yeah.
it
yeah,
functions as a deck.
yeah, yes,
Okay,
I think it does.
that's
I think
that's
what
all I needed.
I think though, if what's his name, Calamity did not exist, I don't think it would be a deck.
Oh, that's
I think the
unfortunate.
only reason it functions right now is because it has a way to make the opponent not be able to play the game. Other than
Yeah,
that, it only has one synchro monster. It needs more than one synchro
sure,
monster to be
sure.
able to fucking play. So
So what I will say is it's not technically a Centurion monster, but in the next set in Phantom Nightmare, there is a
yes, oh, the
generic level
level 8.
8. Yeah, that
Yes,
card is cool and works well
that
in this
card is
deck.
cool.
Which is it's a level 8 synchro that like puts a guy in the back row. I'm shocked it doesn't just have Centurion in its name. Like it's really bizarre
No,
that it
and so
just
part of
doesn't.
me thinks that because almost I feel like it's very common for the sets following these things to have extra cards in them
Yeah,
for, and this one I'm pretty sure just did not for
Hmm.
any
it
of the
didn't have any
decks.
of them. I will say
No.
And so
sometimes they do wait a set, but yes, I know what you mean. Like
part of me believes that is it Phantom Nightmare? Is
Phantom
it
Nightmare, yeah.
which is
Uh-huh.
which is not. Oh, I know. Phantom Nightmare has a memento card in it.
Oh, it does.
Yes,
But it doesn't
memento
have a
and a
Valmonica, it
ghost.
doesn't
Oh.
have a Centurion.
Yeah. It does not have a Centurion and does not have a uh Valmonica.
Super weird. Very, very odd.
Uh, so part of me believes that that card started out as
As a
a
Centurion.
Centurion card, and they just changed it to make the set better or like more generic, so it didn't have to be a Centurion.
Sure.
Because what I said earlier is they need a level 8 monster,
Yeah.
and that card is a level 8 monster.
And you
I
can play it in
forgot about it.
Centurion. Like it's fine
And
to
even
play it in Centurion,
you
yeah.
no, you just absolutely do. You
Yeah.
100% play it. In my opinion, I'm pretty sure you play it. But we'll see in Legacy of Destruction, which got revealed to be a Yugi set. We'll see how that goes. I don't think the cards are any good, but
Yeah.
we'll see if there's any sort of Centurion or Memento or Monica cards in this.
Yeah. Or if we'll get, let's see. What was the third? Oh, I guess we did get all the support. I was like, I guess all 3 archetypes in Wild Survivors did get support. I don't know why I thought the Hungry Burger deck didn't, but it definitely did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
The
it did.
Nouvelle deck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would like to see a little more support for Ryan's pet deck, but
Yes.
like, I don't know if it'll happen
Vanquish
because I
Soul
mean,
to specify,
yes,
not novellas.
yes,
Yeah.
but I feel
But
like so many of the other ones got like just multiple
they got
sets of
so many. Yeah.
cards.
Rescue Ace also only got 1 set of support, but yes, a bunch of them got multiple. Live Twins and Exo Sisters got like 4. You know, I mean, well, Exosort got I think 3, but Live Twins got 4 sets of support, but it was like what it was 1 every time. But yeah,
Yeah.
which nowadays they would just do that in 2 sets and give it 2 each. Like now, if they did that, they would just put Frost and Treat in the same set, and then they just put the continuous spell and Trouble Sunny in the same set. They wouldn't do it over, you know, they wouldn't do 1 card for 4 sets. They do 2 and 2. But because they gave Pearly 3 cards and they only gave Rescue Ace 2. Unless there's a Rescue Ace card. No, they did give Rescue. I forgot they gave them Reinforce. Never mind. Rescue Ace.
Yeah,
did get
Reinforced.
3.
Yes.
I was
yeah.
I almost said it, unless there's a card so bad I forgot it came out. And it would be there. Well, it's yeah, I did forget it came out. Okay, so I guess Rescue Ace is done for sure because it did get 3. But I feel like it's not outside the realm of possibility that Vanquish Soul gets 1 more, and like the Dinosaur deck gets 1 more, and Novellas gets 1 more. Because all the decks recently have been getting 3. So it wouldn't shock me if they did 1 more each, but we'll see. I'm not really
I'm
holding
surprised
my
it's not
breath on that.
in Phantom Nightmare. Phantom
I
Nightmare
am
is just such
surprised
a not good
yeah.
set that, but whatever.
Yeah, I am surprised. Okay, so last thing, I guess let's circle back to the first thing about the rarities of cards in this. And I do not think it is a great decision to make so many of the reprints rares and to make none of the new cards, or there are no reprints that are that are super or ultra. The only foil reprints are going to be if you get the collector's rare or quarter century secret rare rarities, which right now we don't know what many of them are. It says here Christie is a quarter century secret rare allegedly. I don't know if somebody
Yes.
actually
No,
pulled
it
that.
is.
Yeah, I
Did,
saw
did
it.
somebody
Yeah.
pull one? Okay, so there's a quarter century secret rare Christia. Sure, whatever. I do think it is really funny that, like, I thought for sure it would just be the 3 cover cards would be, but I guess Valmonix didn't have a cover card. It was both of the pendulums. So I guess they decided they wouldn't arbitrarily choose one of them to be a quarter century, and they made the 2 cover cards and then Christia quarter century secret rares, and then Valmonica's just. I'm sure Valmonica's, which is both the pendulums, I'm sure will be collector's rare.
Collectors, yeah.
Both of the links, I'm sure, will be collector's rare, and then that'll be the Valmonica collector's rares, and then I'm sure Centurion's gonna get a bunch of collector's rares. Maybe just like Vanquish Soul did, they'll get 4 probably, and then because they did get 5 ultras, so I'm pretty sure Centurions are gonna follow the Vanquish Soul rarity structure, where they'll get 5 ultras, and then they're probably gonna make 4 of them collector's rare. Although one of the super rares collector's rare actually, which is interesting, but we'll see how that goes. And then who's to say how many Mementolans will get collector's rares? Like randomly Darkblade did. That's kind of weird, but we'll see. Because we don't know all of them. We only know 7 collector's rares right now. So
I'm
as
super
far
surprised
as-
that the Centurion field spell is a super rare. I feel like field spells that have like some sort of search effect are always high rarity.
Well,
but
the Valmonica one is an ultra rare and does that. It's a search effect field spell. But yes, I agree. But as far as the reprints go, I guess just to make us all upset when it inevitably doesn't happen, which of these reprints would you like to see get a collector's rare upgrade? I think Foolish Burial is one that I've been asking for a while, because the only high rarity Foolish Burial is the super rare from the Turbo Pack, and I would just like to have a modern high rarity printing of that card.
I
And
would
then
also like
Babushka.
to make the point, if we follow like the previous trends,
Yeah.
where a lot of these reprints were because the old high end for like those cards, they're just unplayable now. Like every super foolish that I've seen or heard people using is just damaged or
ripped in
like
half.
yellowing at the top. Like it's old.
Yeah, they're so old. They've been played in every deck since they've come out. Like they've been shuffled a billion times. Like I said the same thing about Allure of Darkness, and I said I really wanted a collector's rare of that because all the ultimates are just turning to dust in the sleeve.
I feel like them not reprinting that is just very like, obviously they copied like Japanese rarity collection. We've gone over that at length, but it's like there's so many opportunities to just give them a high rarity Allure of Darkness in the modern age. It's kind of criminal, but
and then Colossal Fighter, maybe this doesn't need a collector's rare, but like
I mean, I think the best one is Baguska.
Yes, Baguska is definitely the one that I think. I agree. Baguska.
I think like Edison rarity bumps in deck building sets, they're kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
It's still so niche, right? Like you're not covering like a wide amount of the player base. Like if someone who only plays current pulls a collector at Colossal, they'll just be like, "Oh, that's disappointing." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I would probably be upset if I pulled it. Like obviously, no, I love Colossal Fighter, but yeah, no. Like if I was just a casual, I pulled Colossal Fighter and it's like $10, I'd feel kind of scammed, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I
I do want to
think.
see which of these cards was not.
Also-
How many cards are in the Japanese deck building sets? Give me a second. Let me figure this out. There are 45 cards only in the Japanese deck building set. So that
Yeah,
means
they're really small.
set code 46 to 60 are additions for the TCG set. They were not in the Japanese set. So Honest, Dark Honest, Christia, the two Mech Lords, Abominable Unchained Soul. What is this?
All right,
I think.
Ibisella
opinions on
Lucia?
Collector Rare Honest.
What is that? Oh, Collector Honest would be nice.
Well, I think.
That would be
I
that would
think
be fine.
adding Abominable Unchained Soul was so random into this that it probably. I feel like
Yeah,
that card has to be a collector's rare.
yeah,
Well, I think a lot of these cards getting added are super like Call of the Haunted. Collectors are Call of the Haunted would actually go hard. Not gonna lie.
yeah.
I would be okay with that actually.
I'd be pretty
Why
upset
did
if
I
I
think
pulled
we
that.
already
But
had that?
Really?
Yeah.
You'd be upset with a collector called the Haunted? That's crazy. Why?
yeah,
Why so?
Did we
because
not have a Collector's Rare Call of the Haunted? Or am I just thinking of something
No, we
else?
don't have
No,
any
right?
cool Call the
No, no.
Haunteds. We
because
have
I'd be mad it's not
No,
a
we have a hobby
Centurion
league.
card, Ryan.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Uh,
yes. I mean, right. I mean, at that point,
I feel like people
sure.
buy these things because they want new cards. So like a lot of these old cards,
Yeah.
unless they're like super crazy, like Pristia, like it's a monster,
yeah.
so it's way cooler. Like getting a Call of the
Do you know
Haunted collector's
what's
rare.
broken? This is a good reprint, a high rarity reprint of Christia that will be printed in Spanish. So we will have a quarter century rest, Senor Supremo, whatever the fuck it ended up being. And like before, it was like, yes,
Yeah.
the high rarity. You could not get like the first edition Spanish ones, like were only given out at the sneak peek. So it's like there was just no boxes. If you have a first edition Spanish Christia, like it just like shouldn't exist. And now it's like, yeah, well, I have a collector one. I have a quarter century one. Sorry.
Yeah. I think
Yep.
Christie's a fine choice. I think that's a card where the high rarity one is really, really, really expensive, and it's a quarter century rare. It'll probably look pretty nice, and it's just fine. You know, like I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's whatever. I think Collectors Rare Honest would be fine. If they do Collectors Rare Dark Honest, they're just trolling. Like that's all there is to it. Arch
Day in, day
Nemesis
out, they're making
Escatos.
Edison decks like low rarity. It's so broken. I'm pretty sure you can make the fairy deck now, and it's all commons and rares, like no foils at all.
Yeah. When was the last reprint of
Yeah,
Valhalla? Oh, it was a common in the Speed
yeah, it was a
Duel
common in the
box
structure deck. Yeah.
and the Speed Duel box. It's actually
Yeah.
pretty recent. That card's been reprinted. Okay,
Well, they also
which I
don't play
guess.
Valhalla, but yes,
What about?
continue.
I know they don't play it. I'm just saying, like, I'm looking at
No.
Advanced Draw. Last time this print was 7 years ago. Sure, that's a fine card to reprint, I guess. But
I just remember that card in Battle Pack.
yeah, yes. But again, just going back to my like, why do they keep reprinting? Like, what I want to know is what was so important about reprinting Mechlord Emperor Weisel and Mechlord Emperor Granau
Yeah.
that were commons in Rage of Raw? Yes, I know it
Oh,
was
that's
3
crazy.
years ago.
I didn't remember that.
It was 3 years ago, but it was
OG,
commons
though.
in Rage of Raw. Those cards are nickels. Like, you can get those cards for probably less than 5 cents.
Uh-huh.
And this is a card that was added to the set. It was not in the Japanese set. It was added to the set, and okay, this is the one that I wanted. Do either of you know what Ibisella Lucia is?
Yes, I do.
Nah, I
Okay.
don't.
It's just a really bad plant monster.
It is a plant monster whose first printing was a rare in Ignition Assault in 2020, and then was
Sure.
a common in the 2021 tins, and that has somehow was selected as a reprint in this set.
Pathetic.
And I don't get it. This
Are there any
card
like
does
good
not do
synergies with
anything.
that card and
Huh?
one of the poopy decks?
Well,
Like, does it do anything?
this card's continuous effect is neither player can target face-up spells or traps you control with card effects.
All right.
And then it cannot be destroyed by battle while you control another monster. And it's just an 1800 level 4 plant monster. I guess they want you to put it in your Centurion deck. What? Like,
yeah,
what is happening?
Who
Why is
knows,
this card?
man?
Why is this card here? This card was 10 cents already. Like, were they trying to get ahead and like so nobody bought up all the Ibishella Lucia
yes.
like and ink like
Potentially.
what is why what is happening? Why is this card in the set? Why is it here? Is this one random enough that you would say this must be a collector's rare? Because why else would you put it in the
Oh
set?
my god. I
Like,
would be so
did they
mad.
errata the name of this card? Like, you know how they did that in one of the Dark Saviors cards? Like,
Yeah.
what is the I'm losing my mind. Like, why is this card here? What's going on? All right. Arch Nemesis Escatos. That's a fine one. That card was actually getting expensive and only had one printing
Yeah.
3 years ago as an ultra. Now it is a low rarity card. Could be a collector's rare. That wouldn't be a
That
terrible
card's
one.
also like
Played
playable
right now, sort of. Yeah. No, this card's
yeah.
playable. I agree with you. This
It's
card's
playable. Like, yeah, it's playable. Post like a bunch of stuff as well. Like, there's just like layers to it. That
Yeah.
card's pretty deep. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Apophis of the Swamp Deity is a super
That
rare
card-
from a core set that came out this year. Why?
My friend bought a bunch of those because he was like, it's a spec buy, and then it was just in the thing, and now he's like, I'm financially ruined.
Yeah, I mean, this card is
like, who could have thought? They'll put
no,
it in
that's
there.
what I'm saying. Well, I mean, not to. All right, not. I don't. That doesn't like.
I know,
I'm not
I know,
even.
I know.
I'm just talking about like why
No,
this card came out
funny.
this year. Like this
No,
card came
that's
out
what I
this
mean.
year. Like, what is why?
No, this card will make the rotation for the Megatins as well. I hope it doesn't.
It probably will be in the Megatins also, right? Like why? Like it probably will be. I mean, maybe it won't now because it's in this set,
Yeah.
but like.
Oh, you can definitely hope it isn't.
Call
It
the
just needs
Haunted,
something
surely that's a collector's rare. Like, why would they put it in this set if it wasn't, right?
fun.
Like, sure, like, why?
I mean, it could be like another Time Wizard reprint, but like it's a very unnecessary one if it was.
It's a
Like,
card
that
that's
card
limited in every
it's
format
limited and
anyone
it has been printed
plays.
1.8 billion times. It was in every structure deck for the last like 15,
1, 2,
20
3, 4,
years.
5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. It has 20 reprints, and I'm only up to 2013. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 39, 40. 40. This will be the 43rd printing of Call of the Haunted.
Okay, all right, that is pathetic. I can make a playable deck of Call of the Haunted reprints.
Of unique Call of the Haunted reprints.
Yep.
I guess technically of those 40. Oh, actually, hold on. Nope. There's also the starter decks that got different releases in North America and Europe and were included in neither list. So there's actually 45.
Oh my god.
45.
Oh my god.
This is the 45th reprint of Call of the Haunted.
Good.
That is pathetic.
Yes, good. Literally good. We needed that. I don't know.
My Satellite deck will
I
thrive.
just
2014
I
Tormentor's will
personally
hit 'em.
feel like this is a set, unless Centurion really pops off, I feel like this is a set that could have been aided by some tangible reprints, and these 15 cards they added don't quite do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean I do not need more copies of half of these cards that are already like I don't know.
Yes.
I just so many of these cards were printed so recently too.
It's crazy as well because like traditionally the deck building sets about the age like they've aged like fine wine.
They've aged
which
so
you've
well
gone through because of the the additional prints and like other sets and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? Like I'm looking through these and I'm like I can't think of a deck building set that hasn't had more than one good deck, right? Like over time. It's just like everything has been quite good, and then this one just feels like can Centurion compete? Probably. but like at that point we still have one good deck, and like that'll just eat a good chunk of the value, and then you just have like these expensive Centurion cards on the secondary market for a deck that like won't be the best deck. So it's just inherently pricing people out anyway because of how the distribution of the set is. And this is like the same thing we'd come back to when we talk about like rarity collection and like AGOV, and then we talk about the game being too expensive. It's all cyclical. It just keeps
So
happening.
the other thing I guess I want to bring up, and again, I know there's like there can be only one is a rare in this set, and it was a
It was
rare
printed 2 years ago.
it was a rare in Wild
Oh,
Survivors, which is the
it was
most
also in Maximum
recent
Gold.
deck building set. No, I don't care
Yeah,
about any of the
that
reprints.
no, no.
I
I'm
just
I'm
it
just saying,
was
like in the last like 3 or 4, like I'm pretty sure it's just been printed like
yeah,
five
no,
or six
I
times in the
know
last like three
I
or
know, but
four years.
I don't care about any other reprints. It was
Yeah.
reprinted in the most recent deck building set. It was printed in June in Wild Survivors, the previous set of this deck building. Oh, sorry. I think right in the beginning I said I thought it was 5 cards per pack. It's 7 cards per pack. It's 6 rares and one foil. So now you can
Very
get
good.
6 reprinted rares in your pack. But I I don't know. I think it's such a bizarre choice to have every single reprint is a rare. That's so weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to like. I don't know. I just feel like that's missing a trick somewhere where you could have had super rare. Like if Christie was a super, that wouldn't even be terrible. I know Chris is already a super rare, but it's like it's already a common too. It doesn't matter. It's actually already super rare twice. Never mind. I would have been more upset about that.
Yeah,
Then it would have been super rare for the third time. You know what?
really
Rare is
would've.
fine for Christie. That's okay. If they made it a super rare
Yeah.
for the third time, I'd be like, why is super rare for the third time? So I'll get ahead of making myself upset and say, you know what? That's fine. It's a rare. But like, I don't know. Actually, now that I'm looking at these, would I have been okay with Super Foolish Burial? Probably not. That probably would have made me upset too because it's already super. Maybe there was just no winning with this. Honestly, the more I
No.
look at it,
I
maybe
mean,
there
I
was just
think
no
that
winning.
like
Maybe there was
this
just
goes
no
back
winning.
to where we talked to another podcast. Like I feel like these sets just need to be revamped and
Yeah.
redone because they suck in their current form.
There was
and
no.
they have
There's just
Okay,
no way to
do
win.
you know what? Do you know what's crazy? And I would like to touch on this. These sort of reprints for sets like this make sense if you want to do stuff like sealed play, and I will stand by that.
Yes,
I think
but
these
you
make
yeah.
no sense, but like you can't do sealed play because everything's just so ridiculously top heavy, and it's like 2 card combinations and everything else is like it's the right idea, but for the wrong reason, and it just makes no sense.
I also
Like,
think you can't do sealed play with this set because, as I said, every single reprint is a rare,
yes,
and all the
yes, that
archetypal
too.
cards are super
Yes.
rare. So
Yeah,
you'll get
yep. That's just no
you'll
point.
get a Centurion card, a Malika card, and a Memothelian card, and then 17 terraformings. And that's it. Man, if we get a collector's rare terraforming, I'll actually be so tilted because that will mean oh god, I've now willed it into existence, haven't I? Because it got ultimate, it got quarter century already. Man, it's gonna be collector's rare, and I'm gonna be so confused.
It's gonna be collector's rare, and they're gonna ban it.
Maybe. All right. Oh man. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe you're right, Jeff. Maybe I'm looking at this and I'm trying to look at it and analyze it like how do we fix this? And then maybe you're right. Maybe it's just the format that it is presented just doesn't work for what this product is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right, why is every card a rare that's a reprint? Like you will open this and conceivably get 6 reprints and 1 new card. And that just doesn't sound like a product.
Appealing.
I don't know. It just sounds like I'd be sad doing that.
I'd be sad.
I'd just be sad. Like if I can't really say it another way. Like I like the Centurion cards. I think they look cool. I think they're gonna be a pretty fun deck to play, other than the Calamity thing. But if I open a pack of this and my pack is Valhalla, Foolish, Colossal, Mechlord, Granel, Honest, Christia, and then I'm just like, what is this? Like, what is going on? Like, why did that happen? And the only rares that are new cards are all Mementolans. Every single Valmonica card is a super or ultra, and every single Centurion card is a super or ultra.
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't. I guess what I mean to say with this also is that super rare cards in these deck building sets do not have value. We can go back and check, and you can look at super rares from all these deck building sets. They're worth the same as rares. So having the distribution be like this just makes it unappealing. It doesn't give the cards value.
Right.
Like let's look at super rare pearly cards if there even are any in Amazing Defenders.
There are not.
They actually might all be ultras or
They're not. They're ultra and rare.
all ultra and rare. There are no super rares. Okay, that doesn't help. Let's see. Impulse. Let's just do that. Impulse. Rescue Ace Impulse. That card's a super rare. That card is played in the current most played deck. It is 50 cents to $1. Because it just doesn't matter. Like the super rares are not hard to get, right? The super rares from a value standpoint are about the same as a rare. Oh, Pearly Beauty is a quarter. It is played in one of the most played decks, right? I guess my argument for this, looking at Valiant Smashers,
I guess the Pearly extra deck monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have that and the Pearly whatever,
Plump.
the Fat Pearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see some of the reprints and some of the new cards that are super rares shuffled around, if only so you would get more variety in the packs you open.
Yes.
Because I just think from a consumer standpoint, you're right. When I open a new pack, I want to open new cards. I don't want to open 6 reprints and 1 new card. Right? It just doesn't seem, that's just not what I think I want to see from a product. And I don't know. We'll see when people get their hands on it next week how the reception is, but I feel like we've been seeing a lot of posts out the Ready Collection on Twitter. Whenever somebody opens, like 3 copies of the same card, they just like post it on Twitter and they're like, why did this happen? I truly wonder if we're going to see people post pictures of their packs on Twitter and be like, I'm so glad I pulled this new 2023 booster pack, and it's just like 6 cards printed in 2008 and a Valmonica super rare, you know? Like, I wonder if we're going to see that. I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, or an Unchained, abominable Unchained thing.
Yes, like
6 cards from 2022.
Yeah, that too.
Something.
All right, so I guess that's Valiant Smashers. That was
That was way too much Valiant Smashers.
Yeah. So, Bowden, you want to talk about the Master Duel set with the Vanquish Soul cards, right? And how you didn't know it had Jiao and the Trap card.
Oh yeah, I thought it was interesting that they assumed the power level of like Vanquish Soul was so low compared to what we have currently in Master Duel that they just gave it everything.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting.
They also did the same to Novels.
Mm-hmm.
They gave them their what's it called? Age of Overlord support. Which yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I would say like yeah, probably, right? I mean, they didn't give Rescue Ace its support cards. They only
That's what I find interesting
yeah.
because it's like I feel like Vanquish Soul existed in the tournament scene, but like obviously they probably looked at the results. They're like, okay, Rescue Ace is too good. Even though obviously it's like the sinful spoil stuff, like pushing it above. I think in Master Duel, you could have just had every Rescue Ace card released in the one set, and it would have just been fine.
I agree. I think emergency, or you could have even just given emergency and not given them preventer yet, or something. Even something like you know what I mean. I think it needs emergency to be functional. Even if
it's like
you
gave Pearly like Perlily and Sleepy.
Yeah,
and, like,
that's crazy. They gave them Perlily and Sleepy.
Delicious. Like it's just silly.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. Yeah, they did give Pearly. They didn't give Pearly Noir, but they gave Pearly everything else, and then they pre-hit Kashtira.
Yeah,
but yeah. So
which makes no sense at all. I don't know.
One thing I do like, I like this direction of like. So one thing I don't like about Master Duel is I would prefer if Master Duel just had all the cards currently, so I could play the decks I'm also playing in the TCG in a more easily accessible manner on an official simulator, right? Like that would be in my perfect world. Somehow, this is fictitious. Somehow it would know what cards I owned in real life somehow, and I could just play all the cards I had on Master Duel and just play online. It would be great. Obviously, that's not how it works and can never work that way. They obviously have to have their own system of distribution. So second, thing I would like is just if they just had all the cards that were coming out in TCG, just put on their day one, and I could just play a deck on Master Duel. Oh, I like this deck, then I can go out and buy it in the TCG, if I like it. That's not happening either, because obviously it's also linked to the OCG, and we're actually playing with like the OCG release schedule and like their rulings
we
and
also
whatever.
we got an OCG card that comes out in Phantom
Yeah,
Nightmare as well.
we got a card that
For
comes
like
out in
3,
Phantom Nightmare, which is crazy.
which is very, I think that is very cool. I would prefer, like, okay, if Master Duel was just kept up to date and it's just like 1-for-1 OCG format, I would probably not, like, obviously, like with like their own ban lists and everything else, but like
Yeah.
if Phantom Nightmare came out and a majority of the cards were just in Master Duel like the week before, the week later, whenever, in a time frame that's reasonable, I think that would be cool. I don't know if that's what they would like to do. I think this is like one of those like iconic-ish cards. Like this is like, to me, this is Kurakara in terms of like art. Like obviously they look the same, but I feel like this is gonna be a card that you see them put on playmats and like sleeves and stuff
Oh,
like
for
that, like they do in
sure. This
Japan.
card's
Yeah,
design is super cool. It's a
yeah.
really
I think it's
cool
really
card.
easy to
Yeah,
put that card on anything and make it look good.
I agree.
Mhm.
And like they were using it for like the Master Duel splash page, so I think that's
Yeah.
probably why it was in the set. I think this is just like a cool card to like, oh hey, like we're doing this special thing, and this is just a card that you're gonna see a lot of, and it's like it doesn't have to be like part of the lore or anything. Like I think it is. Like I think it's part of some type of lore in current Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know if this is
Really? I
too
don't think
many
it is. I
strings.
think it's just kind of like an Appaloosa type thing,
Sure,
or just
sure.
like a cool
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
draw
okay, yeah,
card.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
But
But yeah,
so
like it just exists, right? Like
yeah.
they did this. This is a card we'll see a lot of, but like it's a cool enough card that they did this with, and they didn't do it with something that like no one would give a shit about, right? Like this card actually functions in some decks in Master Duel. It doesn't make them really, really good, but like yes, now Timmy can play his Great deck, and it's probably a bit better than what it was before. Great also has a structure deck in Master Duel, so like that's another, like I don't know if it's actually still available. I think they're all pretty static. I don't think they get shuffled out, but I could be wrong. Or maybe I'm thinking of Duel Links. God damn, it's been a minute. I haven't made Salaman great. I have no intention of making Salaman great. Anyway, that's my Master Duel spew of the week. I think it's just interesting that they're doing like a purchase like this, and it's cool. It's its own being. Different people are involved. Like at Worlds, I was like, hey Jerome, are you involved with like any of this Master Duel stuff, like in terms of like balancing or like you know like the ban list. I was genuinely curious, like who was involved with the ban list, and my understanding is it is actually just Japan. But I think they're doing a good job because they're just doing it by the numbers. They have all this information in front of them, and I think the Master Duel ban list is actually not terrible. And like Maxi is just obviously the one thing just staring you right in the face. When you say like, hey, this ban list isn't bad, but as Maxi still
99% or 93% play rate card, right? Like
yeah,
that's
that
just
one's
yeah.
baffling.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
7% of people can't afford it. 7% of people just haven't logged in.
Yeah, so, right, but so I guess to get back on my like what I wish would happen or whatever. So if we can't have it be up to date with TCG and can't have it be up to date with OCG for various reasons, my next wish, which finally just happened actually, is shuffle around the release of cards. So cards that came out maybe one set too late in the TCG or OCG can be met with appropriate power level cards and actually be good. And I think this is finally the time it happened. I think
Nope,
Zhao
I can
Long
agree with that. We've said
actually,
that way too long.
yeah.
No.
Huh? They what?
All the times that we've said, like, if this came out last year, it would have been good.
Even one
And
set
like
earlier.
now is the opportunity,
Yeah.
right? Like we have the
Yes.
gap. We can have these like they're fake formats, but it's like no, it's a fake format if you just look at it from the perspective of like this didn't exist in TCG or OCG. It's like no, this is just
Yeah.
its own being. It's
Yeah.
Master
And
Duel.
like
They're Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but this is its own format. Like
yes,
we
yes.
accept it.
And it's literally like the big one, I think the most recent one for me was in 2020 was Burst of Destiny. I think Burst of Destiny introduced Sword Soul, a very good deck, and Flunder, a very good deck. And if Live Twin Trouble Sunny came out one pack earlier, that deck could have been really good. And then unfortunately, they held on to it for one set too long, and by the time it came out, Now Live Twins were designed a year ago and probably got a little power crept. And yeah, we've seen them creep up here and there with random sprite stuff and runic stuff and whatever. But just as an actual standalone deck, I think they just held on that card for one set too long. Similarly, as we mentioned, Vanquish Soul have kind of been okay since they came out, but never really were like a dominant deck. And not that every deck needs to be a dominant deck, but I think currently in the TCG, they have an atrocious Unchained matchup. And Unchained, as we just saw, had a big resurgence. So now is probably the worst time to ever try to play Vanquish Soul. And in Master Duel, Vanquish Soul got its support immediately, and Unchained is not in the game yet. Like the new Unchained cards from Duelist Nexus are not in the game yet. So you've just created this pocket where they've identified, okay, we have this meta of kind of Kashtira versus Pearly. What can we introduce to shake up the metagame a little bit? And they determined it was Age of Overlord, like, in air quotes, full power Vanquish Soul is what they wanted to introduce. And now I feel like we have like a playable non-dominant deck in Vanquish Soul that sort of shakes it up a little bit. And I like that. I think that's a good decision, and I would like to see more of it in the future.
No. Like they're just learning from like what happened in OCG and TCG, right? Where it's like, okay, we made a mistake. It's like, let's just let them have these two cards. I guess it's reasonable, yeah. Because it's like, even with those two cards, I don't think the deck is pulling results in Japan anyway. So it's just like, you see the power creep. It's like, well, let's give them the opportunity to play with these cards.
Exactly.
And the only one where people won't be upset that their deck is unplayable in 2 weeks because they can just dust it. Like Master Duel is probably the best spot to do it.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people have you had a lot of fun. Like you streamed for the first time in God knows how long.
I did stream for the first time in God knows how long. Yeah.
I was watching Tasaku, the cracked like Japanese Master Duel player. He was playing Vanquish Soul as well, which I thought was very, very funny. He's just like, I'm playing a new deck. I love Master Duel. I was like, sick. And I watched the stream. It was very cute. I love that stuff. But like, it's good. It's good. Give people more options. And obviously in Best of One, it's like a deck like Vanquish Soul only has to be good enough, X percentage of the time instead of like a tournament setting or something. So go for broke.
So I think that, I don't know, I think that covers everything we want to talk about. I definitely went off the deep end. When I do the timestamps, I'm going to label one of my tangents as just Ryan loses his mind for 9 minutes. I don't even know what I was talking about, honestly. So, and I'm not going to cut it out. I'm just going to say Ryan loses his mind for 9 minutes. And I should edit it out, but I'm not going to because it's just kind of funny. But I just don't even, anyways. Yeah, I think that covers basically everything. So I guess we'll reiterate, Jeff, the conditions of entry for this.
Yeah.
For this.
So, if you would like to win a box of the best, most favorite set of the year, the 25th anniversary rarity collection, all you have to do is be subscribed to the channel and please leave a comment in the comment section telling us your favorite card and rarity from the set. And we will pick someone from among those. And as long as it doesn't cost the entirety of the box to ship it to you, I will ship it to you. So I'm sure anyone can enter at that point. I can't imagine shipping this somewhere would cost $80. So
well, do I have a no, you should be fine. We'll rig it so someone in North America wins it. It's okay.
Nah.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So thank you all for watching. I hope this was, for those of you who had not seen any of our stuff until the 2 weeks where we just fought back against people complaining, then, I hope this was interesting that we actually just kind of
just a quick note though, real quick. Did you guys see how much wanted Seeker is now on TCG?
No, it went up.
Is it 70 or is it 80?
No, it was like 90, and I think it's just like 80-ish now.
It was like 70. It is $75 now. Yeah, it's $75.
It was a pretty solid 80 for like the last week,
which we talked about. Oh, and Imseti's like $50, like a bunch of these cards. Yeah, all these cards that we talked
keeps
about.
Going crazy, dude. This set is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what? You know how every time it's just like, why open a box? Like, bad EV. Like this set can still be bad EV, but it's definitely like making its way to the point where it's like I feel good if I open a box of this set.
Yeah,
I
for
would
sure.
not be upset.
There's definitely
My break
a
even
lot
is
more
so
stuff.
close, and I'm getting like cool playable cards. Like it's reasonable to me to open a box of this set, and you can
Yeah.
still low roll, which is whatever. But
So
Yeah.
how much are
Just
boxes
not food for thought.
are $70 right now? So that's
Yeah.
about average of what a set is when on release most of the time.
The world is healing.
Mm-hmm.
Gone are the days of Duelist Nexus.
Yeah, actually. Oh, let's check how much our box of Duelist Nexus now. I'm a little curious. That this will be the last thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you see the price of Magicians of Bonds and Unity from Agov? Oh my god.
No, is it just
$45.
That's
Oh my
crazy.
god,
That
that is
is
disgusting. I'm looking at it right
crazy.
now.
That is
It is less
crazy.
than Imseti. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gross.
that is disgusting. Yeah, box of Duelist Nexus, $45. Yikes.
Ooh.
Well, Agov is
That is the price.
almost double. So here we are. Not almost double, but close enough.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Great. All right. Well, on that somewhat depressing note, thank you all for watching, and we will hope to see you next time.